Hey guys, it's Esper. If this is the first video of mine you're watching, hello. I am an occasional streamer, an infrequent YouTuber, and a constant purveyor of shitty opinions on the internet. Welcome. So before I get started, I want to give you a reason to watch this video. I was gold for 13 seasons, and you can see that as I flip through my career profile. I know what it's like to exist in gold. I know how frustrating it is sometimes to be in gold. And I find that my advice is more valuable than the Masters player telling you, 5, 10, 15 different tips that will help you rank up. Those people are already good at the game. I had to go and struggle through all of gold to get to plat. And now struggling through plat to hopefully get to diamond. Okay, so this is the very basic thing that my friend taught me, and if you take nothing else out of this video, just walk away with this. Tanks make space. Off tanks enforce the space that the main tanks make. DPS exist in that space to get picks and deal damage. Healers enable and defend. So you may be saying, okay, Esper, I already know all this shit. Why are you telling me this? Because at the cornerstone of Overwatch, this is probably one of the most important things that I needed to realize is diagnosing the situation via people's roles. And that doesn't mean there is a hard and fast rule for everything, but it does mean that there is a good way to diagnose and ask questions to see where things are going right and where things are going wrong. So I just want to start this off with a small little personal rant, which is DPS aren't always responsible for your losses. I saw this a lot in gold, and I still see it. A lot of gold players will point the finger at the DPS. I have seen good, even great DPS in gold, but I have been playing main healer for a few seasons now, and I've always enjoyed healer, but before that I was a flex player. I have played DPS, I've played off tank, I've played healer, obviously. I don't really play main tank, but I know what they're supposed to do because as a main healer, you are there a lot of the times to support them. So whenever I watch the bigger picture, I constantly see a lot of tanks pressing S when they should be aggro and when they should be engaging and taking space. Most of your games are probably lost by tanks that can't make space for your team rather than shitty DPS. Take that in. Because at the end of the day, Overwatch is a game of space. It's a lot easier to think of it with payload, because you are actually moving a physical object. But if you never engage and you never get in there, you'll never take the point, you'll never push the payload, and you won't win. So, here are the diagnostic questions that you can ask for when your game is not going quite how you want it to. So, if nothing is dying, then you have two things you need to ask. Are my tanks making enough space? This is the first thing that you should be asking, because without space, you're not going to win. Then, are my DPS capitalizing on this space? So these two questions kind of set a path whether you're seeing if it's the tanks that are your problem or if it's the DPS that are your problem. Okay, so if you have a main tank that isn't making enough space, then you have to ask these things now. Why aren't they being aggressive enough? And that is a really broad question, which brings me to this one. Are my healers healing enough? Sometimes you'll get tanks who are not being enabled by your healers. And sometimes you will get tanks who are just passive and don't know how to play the tank role. So if it turns out that there isn't enough healing, then what do you have to ask? The first thing is, are you peeling for your healers? If there are people diving your healers, they'll be preoccupied with keeping themselves alive instead of you or your teammates alive. And that is the most important thing, that the healers can do their jobs. If the healers can heal, chances are you can win that fight if your team is operating even just remotely decently. And then if your healer isn't getting dove, do you have a main heal? Do you have healers that synergize well, or a situation that benefits from your healing setup? For example, Brig's main heal is on a cooldown. You know, she has to be hitting things, and for you to be in a certain radius of her for her healing to take effect. So do you need somebody more like Mercy or Moira or Ana, you know, who can heal you without it being on a cooldown and without her having to do damage? Those are kind of just things to think about. And another thing is that if you personally aren't getting enough healing, you have to ask yourself if you are in position, because your healer shouldn't be going out of their way to heal you and putting themselves in danger to heal you. And this goes for tanks as well, but tanks have a lot more survivability because of their HP pool. So this applies more to DPS. So a lot of these things you can apply to your teammates, but it's most important that if you're playing one of these roles and you realize that, hey, as a DPS, I'm not in the right position, or hey, as a tank, I'm not making enough space and I'm not taking on fights that'll help us win. Or as a healer, you notice that, you know, you're getting picked and you're out of position, or you're not healing your tanks enough, you're trying to DPS too much. Remember your roles. And this is one thing that, and the main thing that helped me rank out of gold, was diagnosing the problems that existed in my team. And then the next thing to do is identify who your strongest players are. You know, if that's you, good for you. Make sure that you're doing what you're doing and just keep doing it. Now, you also have to find what your win condition is. Let's say you're a Hanzo and there's a Zarya there building Grav. Try to coordinate with them, you know, try to find these opportunities to use your team to your advantage. And for me as an Ana main, I look for good Ryans that will capitalize on that nano, and then I throw an anti-nade, you know? So there are loads of different things that you can do to help elevate your team and find a win condition for you guys. And that's really it for this video. I hope this helped, and if you guys have any more questions, let me know in the comments, and if you want more Overwatch content, let me know. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.